Thank you very much for tuning in to the No Fruit Podcast. We're going to have a fabulous show today. We have a doctor who's running a multi six figure business based on her female superpower, which is her menstrual cycle, and that she teaches, trains, and coaches other female entrepreneurs who want to level up on their businesses without the grind and the burnout. She feel like her womb wisdom, which is a great term, is referred to. We're going to cover that and understand how that is a source of creation energy that all women should be able to access. And so, while most female entrepreneurs learn to grind like gentlemen, she thinks that it's time that everyone access their own superpower. We thank you very much for listening to the No Fruit Podcast. Just hold on for one moment.
Let's talk about love and marriage the way that God intended. Life experience, here we share it. The No Fruit Podcast. Tune in from any platform. No Fruit Podcast. Will help your spirit transform.
Again, we thank you very much for coming on, and we bring none other to you than Dr. A. Simmons. Now, we studied the name. We tested ourselves. We quizzed ourselves on how to say the name. We even asked our guest how to say her name, and I really do not want to disrespect her like that. So, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, it's Aumatma.
Aumatma.
Yes.
Aumatma. Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Simmons.
You got to try, Maurice. Come on, take a shot.
I'm scared. Thank you very much for coming on and just, flowing with us. We're talking, we want to talk about hormonal changes and things like that, fertility challenges, all those type of things that might hinder people from moving forward, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of times we don't know how to keep that stuff under wraps. We may not even understand how to even get it diagnosed or whatever, because sometimes we get caught up in, oh, that's just so-and-so. That's how they've always been. So how do we get over that stigma of that term of, hey, that's just who they are?
I think that there is like who we are is such a big question, right? And it's always evolving.
Yes.
And if we can find the truth of like, hey, this is not me all the time, we create some space and then we start reflecting for ourselves like, is something out of whack? Like, is my body trying to tell me something or is something wrong? And I feel like at least a lot of the body and hormonal things is a feedback loop. It's information that we can use
Mhm.
to our benefit wherever we are paying attention and wherever we are in tune with what the message is that's coming through.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think you're saying a whole lot right there. Because it's a lot to be in tune with oneself. You really have to take a deep dive and reflection of, hey, what's going on internally? And a lot of times things that are going on, it's external stuff that's coming at us and we kind of respond to that and not necessarily taking that deep dive and saying, well, what's going on with me? What's making me react this way? And that comes both male and female, with the flows of...
Yes.
It's truth, I know. Maurice and I talk about that, a lot, that, hey, I have a time in the month and you do too. There's certain times, he's shaking his head, no. There's certain things
I
that just don't, he's a little more standoffish at times. He's a little more, emotional at times. And likewise myself, and it can come, some say it's because of the tide and the moon and, those
Yeah.
things that align and affect us. So talk a little bit about what are some of the external things, and then how do we realize how to deal with that internally?
Yeah. So I do think that men and women are different. Men run on what I call the 24-hour clock, right? That's the clock we're accustomed to.
Mm-hmm.
That's the clock we all pay attention to. And that's the masculine energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the feminine energy, which we all have, men
Mm-hmm.
and
Right, right.
women.
Yes, I agree.
And
Because we all
that
start off as
feminine
women. We all start
energy,
off as women, right?
yes. That feminine energy runs on a 28-day clock.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when we understand that we have these two energies and we're affected by both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So the sun and the moon, right? Like
Yes.
the sun is the 24-hour clock, the moon is the 28-day clock.
Mm-hmm.
It exists in nature and we are the reflection of that.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're understanding like, oh, there is this ebb and flow,
Yes.
and the sun is affecting us all the time. The
Mm-hmm.
sun is actually the um the circadian rhythm is the foundation of the infradian rhythm, the moon cycle.
Yeah.
So at the core level, that circadian rhythm is impacting us,
Mm-hmm.
and we all know like if we've had a shitty night of sleep,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
or oh, I couldn't fall asleep for some reason,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
it's dark and gloomy
Mm-hmm.
outside, there's no sun.
Mm-hmm.
We're being impacted by all of those things all the time.
Yeah.
And then similarly, the moon cycle, regardless of whether we see the moon or not, is
Mm-hmm.
affecting us.
Exactly.
And for women, we tend to have that like we're more impacted because we have more feminine energy,
Mm-hmm.
and men are more impacted by the sun because they have more masculine energy.
That's good.
Theoretically,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
we can be flipped sometimes, and that is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can flip back if we choose.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that there is so those the energies are at the core of us, and if we're aware of them, then we can either sync with them and utilize them.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, a really a great like we call it biohacking these days,
Mm-hmm.
but we've lived this way forever, so
Yeah.
this is not anything new. um, if we wake up with the sun and we're able to get within the first 30 minutes of waking up, the sun hits our eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
It's activating something called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. That's the in behind our eyes, essentially. And that tells us, oh, time to wake up,
Right.
time to release cortisol. That's what gets us going in the morning. So a lot of times people are like, oh, I just can't get out of bed. Like, my solution is get up, get yourself up, and walk outside and get that sunlight onto your eyeballs so that your body can start responding with the hormones that it should be producing
That's great.
in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
right? So back to your question, Kafa, it's like y- the um the sun and the moon have a really big impact on us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a lot of other things in our environment.
Mm-hmm.
Everything from toxins that are floating around to relationships to how your boss is talking to you, like
Mm-hmm.
all of these things that are affecting our lives in
Yes.
some way. So it's the internal stuff and our internal responses to
Mm-hmm.
everything happening around us. And our hormones, I think, for women and to a certain extent for men, are the the reflection of what is happening around us, through us, and within us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but, like, there's just so much, right?
Right.
Like,
Yes.
all of these things are impacting us all the time, and like, it takes a little bit of that reflection
Mm-hmm.
time to say, "Oh, I see the patterns," and for, like, what we help and coach women do is, like, start to notice the patterns.
Mm-hmm.
I get sad like 3 days before my cycle
Right.
every single month,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
right? And when we start realizing it, then we say, "Oh, it must be my hormones are screwed up."
Mm-hmm.
But if we're not listening or we're not fully in tune, that sadness is actually telling us something. It's
Mm-hmm.
saying, "Hey, there's some shit in your life that you're not looking at
Right.
that is culminating into this sadness more exaggerated during this
Mm.
time It's
Right.
there to show you something
Yeah, yeah.
about something else in your life that's not working.
Mhm.
So
Hmm.
we just have to be like reflecting, and as as we shift the thing in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
we might find that the hormones respond to that.
Mhm.
And that's the part that to me is like fascinating is
Mm.
our hormones are this responsive mechanism. Yes, they're controlling a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
they're actually in response most of the time to the things in our lives that we are being impacted by.
Yeah.
So you're asking individuals who are maybe career minded, who may be moms, um, aunties, guardians, whatever it might be, to
Yeah.
pay attention to these swings one way or another. And I'm
Mhm.
saying it from this perspective of sometimes we get caught up in our everyday where we're not always paying attention to who we are and what we are and what's going on when we look in the mirror, things like that, because we're so laser focused on I gotta get up, I gotta make breakfast, I gotta go to the gym, I gotta go and I have the meeting at 9 o'clock. So
Mhm.
how would you encourage someone to take a moment, take a breath, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
pay attention because sometimes that causes us to slow down. Sometimes we feel like we gotta be, in microwave mode. So how
Mhm.
would you tell someone to slow down?
Yeah, this is a big one. So I think that we can do it in 2 ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think on a small level, reflection time is good to have every day.
Mhm.
So if there's 10 minutes in the day that we can use to journal or just reflect in
Mm-hmm.
general, that's really helpful and
Mm-hmm.
useful. And then for those that are in tune with the moon clock, whether men or women, the time to really do that is around the new moon. So
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
for women that are menstruating, if your cycle is synced to the moon, then you might menstruate on the new moon. But it doesn't always land that way. So
Mm-hmm.
for women that are cycling, you can choose either the new moon or when you're on your menstrual cycle are the good times to be in reflection mode.
Mm-hmm.
And to for us, like the people that we're working with that are super high achievers,
Mm-hmm.
uh, we're looking at, can we build in a day or 2 where you are only reflecting and in like using your intuition and letting yourself get downloads from spirit, universe, God,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you wanna call it, um, but use that time that your body was designed to be the vessel
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and be the vessel.
Mhm.
And that, like, it's very scary for so many people because we are taught that go, go, go is the
Mhm.
way to be,
Right.
right? Like,
Yeah.
that's
Right.
what you're a human doing, not a human being,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right? So continue doing.
Mhm.
But when we're on autopilot, it gives us no time to really have that reflection, the time in the mirror, the I feel like the most potent time to get these downloads about what's in alignment, what do I need to focus on, where does my energy need to really be
Mm-hmm.
for the next month that is coming up.
Hmm.
And when we can take these like micro breaks, it's not a
Hmm.
vacation from your life. It's not a I'm not working, I'm not doing anything,
Mhm.
but it is like intentional focus where you have trimmed away all of the excess that you need to be doing,
Mm-hmm.
and you're focused on, like, during these 2 days, I'm just gonna be, like, getting these downloads, and I'm gonna write
Hmm.
stuff down, and I'm gonna journal, and I'm gonna be more intentional about listening.
Mm-hmm.
Then what happens is you actually blossom
Mhm.
so much energy because you've taken that time to recuperate and
Mm-hmm.
rest and receive. You are now in more abundant flow with what your life is calling you into,
Hmm.
whatever that is for work. Or the flip side of that is the full moon, or ovulation time for
Mm-hmm.
women.
Mm-hmm.
And the full moon is the time for excess. So this is a
Mm.
lot when women, once they start realizing this and they get in tune with the pattern, they're like, "Oh my god, like, I have so much energy, what's happening?" And and men feel this too, like, we know culturally, we know that there's all these things about, "Oh, people go crazy on the full
Full moon,
moon."
Right,
yes,
right,
yes.
It's because we have this excess of energy,
right,
Mhm.
right.
where if we're in tune with it, then we can plan for it.
Oh, okay.
And we can, so for my life, for example, I'm like, "Oh, full moon's coming up or my ovulation time's coming up. I'm gonna be able to do more
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
and be more productive at the doing."
Yeah.
So
Mm.
something that would have taken me 4 hours is now gonna take 30 minutes.
Mhm.
What?
Hmm.
I crunch time like crazy, right?
Yeah.
So I can be more productive, I can stack up my to-do list, I can,
Mm.
just commit to all the things that
Mhm.
I was avoiding doing during my new moon, with the assumption that I'm gonna have a ton of energy because
Mm.
I've built my reserves to
Yeah.
go into that time.
Great.
So it really changes, um, how we access energy and
Mm-hmm.
how we continue to find, like, is this in alignment? Am I
Mhm.
on the right path?
Mm.
Am I doing the things that are most important to the goal that I want to fulfill for this year, for this month, for this quarter, whatever it is that you're looking at? And you can really plan your calendar around
Hmm.
major cycles. And once we start doing that, you're like, "Wait, what? Like, how is this possible? Like,
Yeah.
I just have so much more energy." And for men, I think that you could do it also with the moon,
Mhm.
or you can, the circadian rhythm is a smaller reflection of that.
Mm.
So, finding the times in the day where you're gonna be most
Mm-hmm.
productive, and most
Mm-hmm.
men are, like, productive all the time, right? That is a lot of masculine energy. It's like, "Get shit done."
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
get shit done energy is present almost all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but I think a lot of men are also burning out,
Mhm.
and part
Mm-hmm.
of that is there is not time in their calendars for reflection and slowing down, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
when we're always putting our foot on the gas pedal, we're gonna run out of gas,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
right? Like, it makes complete sense,
Mhm.
but we don't realize that that's happening to all of us in our society. The way that we've created society to be right now
Right.
is like we're expected to always do, always be on the
Mm-hmm.
go, always take on more.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so important to find the space to do that reflection and slowing
Mm.
down so that you can speed up.
Wow.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, it's so connecting, because Maurice and I were just saying we had a crazy day yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and we asked,
We asked about the moon.
we did. We It's like, Alexa, is it a full moon tonight? Because something's going on. So again, we recognize that
Mm-hmm.
hey, there is an impact on things, like you said, and what you're sharing is very, very informative and
Mm-hmm.
and great. Like you said, hey, this is a great tool to use to say, hey, this is how you can be more productive, and this is the
Mm-hmm.
time to be more reflective.
Mhm.
But my question for you is, that's internal, but how do I share that with my family? Like, how do I let them know, guess what, guys? This is my reflection day. You guys got to figure it out on your own. Or, hey, wait until the 20th because it's going to be a full moon and I'm going to cook a whole entire spread. We're going to do this, this, and this. We're going to paint the house. Like, so how do you talk to other people about that and let them know what's going on so that you're not burning yourself out?
Yeah.
Especially, yeah, just how do we talk to other people about that and help them understand us?
Mm. That's a good question. So I we can go one of two ways. We can be super ninja secretive about it, and that could work. It totally could. I have done that for a very long time because I'm in environments that I can't always say, uh, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be on my cycle, so,
Right, right.
I'm not showing up for this." So that's one way to do it is plan your schedule and, like, the things that you're saying no to.
Mhm,
I think a lot of times, especially women, feel like they have to, um like, justify why they're
Mhm.
saying no,
mhm.
right? Like, "Oh, I can't do that." And then the next question is, "But why?" "Well, because I choose not to, period, done." Right? We're
Right.
not having
Yeah,
this
Right.
conversation
Right.
right.
because a no is a no, and that's my boundary, and, like, a lot of times women have struggle with that, so
Mhm.
I
Mhm,
think that we need to be better about our boundaries and realizing that this is sacred space and
mhm,
time. Um, and if we chose it, we like, if that was our commitment, I know that we
mhm,
can do it,
Right.
mhm,
right? But when we don't choose it,
mhm,
or we have a struggle saying no to things, or what I get into a lot even today is like, it's gonna be a crazy day.
Mhm.
The wrong time to have a crazy day. But I'm like, "You know what? It's gonna be a crazy day." I'm choosing it because it's like things it the whole evening is set up for my child and I to
Mhm,
have this like evening together.
Right.
mhm,
And it only happens once a year, and I'm like,
mm,
I could say no to this,
Right.
or I
mhm,
can lean in and just say yes, which means that what that meant for me was like, okay, then the rest of the day needs to be blocked off.
Mhm.
Like, I'm
mhm,
not doing anything else so that I can have all of my energy for
Yes.
the evening.
mhm,
And so we can create those and like just get better about saying no to things
Mhm.
and be okay with that.
mhm,
Or or we get a few people in our lives that we can enroll in this way of doing things. And
mm,
especially when it's someone close, right?
mhm.
Like if it's your partner, your family, your children that are old enough to understand,
Right.
then you can say, hey, like this day, I'm, I'm gonna be doing some time to myself.
Mhm.
I would love some space. Please don't bug me about food. There's plenty of food in the kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Help yourself.
Mhm,
Right? Like you can plan and prep them in advance, and that helps because
mhm.
then they're like, oh, she's not being weird. She just is doing her thing
Yeah.
Right,
today.
right.
We've got it on the calendar and we're all on the same page.
Page. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it can be done. And then in the work environment, which is what like most women are like, "Oh my god,
Mhm,
how am I gonna tell my boss?" Right?
Mhm.
And we are rolling this out in several companies
mm,
actually that are interested in how this would play, because a lot of employers are scared
mm,
that, oh my god, if we like start giving days off to women on their menstrual cycles, we're just gonna have women constantly on a menstrual
mhm,
cycle, right?
mhm,
Like they're just gonna take all these days off, and then we're gonna have less efficiency and less
mhm,
people working and all of that. And in reality, what happens is that that one day off gets them rejuvenated and they're going to be way more productive.
mhm,
Mhm.
So, there is a way to like bring this in either like, hey, this is a sick day
Right.
and I'm just going
mm,
to take a sick day, or um, use your time that you get throughout the year and
mhm,
plan it
Right.
in advance with your boss. Like, hey, I'm trying out this thing. I commit to taking one day off, but I'm going to be doing more
mhm,
and I'll be way more productive in the other days that
Yeah.
I'm here. And that takes a degree of trust with your boss
mm,
to bring that. And I think even if you can't, so
mhm.
this is where a lot of women are like, well, I don't know, I'm not ready for that. Uh, and we I would say if you're not ready for that, then it's your opportunity to be a little bit more ninja about it, in
Mm-hmm.
the sense that you can still go to work, but if there are meetings that are optional, you opt out
Mm,
of them.
Right.
If there are times that people are like, "Hey, this deadline is gonna," and you're like, "Oh, that's gonna fall on my menstrual
mhm,
cycle,"
mhm,
then either you are way ahead of that deadline so that it's not an
mm,
issue,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're like, "I already finished it. I'm good. It's not gonna stress me out on the day of my cycle
mhm,
or day 1 of my cycle." Or you you're just, like, organizing around it in a
mhm,
way that is like, even though I have to go to work, it's gonna be chill,
Right.
mhm.
right?
Yeah.
It's gonna
Yeah.
like, you're internally set up to have a chill day, even if you're at work, and then you do as much as you can to, like, take away reflection
Mm-hmm.
time
Mm,
while at work.
Yeah. That's good.
Um,
mm,
so I think it's doable. I think that when people start syncing with this, they're
mhm,
like automatically within a few months, they're like, "Oh, I feel like I'm not crazy because
mhm,
it's like I feel more rested.
Mm-hmm.
I have more energy. I'm way more productive. I can do more in 10 days than
mm,
most people do in 40."
Yeah. Yeah.
mm,
The reason is because I've scheduled my life that way,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's really it's doable, and we just have to find like, what can I tweak to get some of my time and energy back
mhm.
from the things that I'm giving to all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Now, Doctor Aumatma. Yeah, I,
Oh,
You did
we appreciate you coming
it.
on.
Yes.
There's a lot of information you share that I'm glad that we're recording it because you just taught a class, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a lot of things that we don't take in consideration. Just opening up the blinds. I mean, I hate opening up when Kafa opens up the blinds, the curtains, first thing in the morning. But even you just mentioning that, how it starts our day, how
Mm-hmm.
it starts to effectively, affect our hormones internally. And just get us moving. So again, I appreciate you offering something as simple as that to get us
Mm,
moving. But if I have other things that I need to work on, that I need, I want to talk to you, how can I reach out to you and find you and maybe even share your information with other people?
yeah, absolutely. So the best place to find me is on Instagram at holistic fertility doctor. Um, just message me there.
Great.
It's easy.
That
Yep,
easy, that easy. And we'll have that
yep, yep.
information and all of your information
All right.
in our show notes. So those who want to have that information, you don't have to remember all the things that you just said, but we'll
Yeah.
definitely have that there so you can click it and go right to her Instagram and send her a message.
Yep, most
Yeah.
definitely. So we do have one more question for
One
you
final
though.
question.
Okay.
Before we let you go, so Kav, you can.
Sure, sure. So again, this has been so great knowing more about ourselves and how, um, the world kind of changes us in some kind of way.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And that there's this duality in the sun and the moon and the stars and all those things, how they all kind of work together. So my
Mhm.
last question for you is, when it comes to dualities and duos, if you could sing a duet with anyone in the world, living or deceased, who would you sing that duet with?
Oh gosh. Um, huh. Well, I think the first answer is my husband.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh, and yeah, I feel like marriage is a singing
Mm.
symphony
Yes.
duet, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we're
Mm.
doing it.
Right.
So I don't know what the song would be, but I'm still working on that.
Yes. Yes. That's good. That's good.
You know, but I mean, you were the first person to actually mention their spouse, on this question.
Really?
Yeah. Everyone else had some. Even when we had other couples on, except for one person, I think they did mention
Their
why that
spouse.
person was sitting there. But everyone else has kind of mentioned someone that they kind of wished they could have because they themselves don't know how to sing. So we thank you very much for just rolling with the question because I'm pretty sure when Kafa started going in on it, you like, where are you going? So but we thank you very much for offering your insight on that as well.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a fun question.
Yes. We like to end the show fun. Sometimes, the topics get a little heavy and tough, but that's how we grow, and that's what this show is all about. And the No Fruit Podcast, we're here to help people grow and to learn and to stretch. And we thank you so much for the information that you shared because I certainly have grown, and we're going to mark our calendars.
Yes.
We're going to mark our calendars because, again, we're dealing with that, the mood swings that I have, prior to his ups and downs throughout the day. Just understanding that, I think we'll take a closer look at that. Most definitely. So, because I think there's certain times of the day that he works really, really hard, and he's like, "Come on, let's get this done." I'm like, I don't feel like it. So,
well, I mean, on the flip side of that, we have to mark the calendar because we've been going through these challenges. Kyle's been going through these challenges of menopause. Again, another hormonal change, right?
Yes.
So we appreciate you, and we will be probably investing in probably about 3 or 4 calendars, as it sounds like.
Marking them all up. Yes.
Or Google Calendar.
Yes.
Right.
I'm looking forward to all the full moons. I get to clean the kitchen. I get to clean because that means we're both in sync. So that's the whole day. Like I can be like, hey, honey, it's time to clear out the garage because it's a full moon coming up next week.
Yeah.
He doesn't like.
He's like, well, I'm on my own calendar.
I know, right? I do.
Yes.
Cool. But thank you very much, though.
Yes.
Yeah,
I truly thank you. I don't care about just the full moon stuff is where I'm looking. Spring cleaning's coming.
Gosh. We thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yes,
and we thank everyone for tuning in to the No Fruit Podcast. All of her information will be in the show notes as usual. And we will talk to you a little later.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the No Fruit Podcast, where we bring you fruitful conversations, ripened wisdom, and love that's deeply rooted. We hope today's discussion left you feeling uplifted, encouraged, and ready to take on life's journey with purpose. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who could use a little inspiration in their day. You can catch up on past episodes, send us your thoughts, or learn more about us on social media. Until next time, stay rooted in love, and remember, every seed you plant today shapes the fruit of tomorrow. Take care, and we'll see you next time.